The dining room went silent. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that makes your heart pound and your throat go dry. Elena stood there holding her husband David's hand, watching her father's face turn a furious red. Her mother looked away. Her brother crossed his arms, and just like that, everything she thought she knew about family shattered. "If you marry this man," her father said, his voice dangerously low, "you are no longer my daughter." 23 years. That's how long it had been since Elena walked out of that house, choosing love over blood. 23 years of deafening silence, missed birthdays, and holidays spent building a new family from scratch. But what happens when they all come face to face again? When the daughter they disowned shows up at a family reunion they never knew she was invited to? What her family saw, what David did when they tried to speak, and what her father finally said when he broke down? Nobody expected it. Not even Elena. Let's dive into this powerful story. This story starts in 1999, in a small town in Georgia. The kind of town where everybody knows everybody, where families go back generations, where Sunday church is non-negotiable and tradition runs deep. Elena Carter grew up in what looked like a perfect family. Big house on Maple Street. Her father owned the local insurance company. Her mother ran the church fundraisers. Her older brother was preparing to take over the family business. They were respected. They were established. And they had expectations. Elena was 24 when she met David at a teaching conference in Atlanta. She was a second-grade teacher. He was a fourth-grade teacher from the other side of the city. They talked about students, about lesson plans, about how to reach kids who felt invisible. David made her laugh. He listened when she talked. He saw her, really saw her, in a way nobody else had. They fell in love the way people do when it's real, slowly, then all at once. For months, Elena kept it quiet. She knew her family. She knew their beliefs, their concerns, their carefully worded phrases about our kind and their kind. She'd heard it her whole life, whispered over dinner tables and church parking lots. But love doesn't stay quiet forever. When she finally told her parents she was dating someone, her mother's first question was, "What church does his family attend?" When she said his name was David, her father asked, "David what?" And when she showed them his picture, the room changed. The air got heavy. "Elena," her mother whispered, "what are you thinking?" Her father didn't whisper. "This is unacceptable. You're not thinking straight. This is a phase, and it ends now." But it wasn't a phase. It was love, real, honest, deep love. And when David proposed 6 months later, Elena said yes without hesitation. The wedding invitation she sent to her family came back unopened. The letter she wrote to her mother was never answered. When she called her brother, he said, "You made your choice. Now live with it." So she did. But just when she thought the hardest part was behind her, life showed her what real struggle looked like. David and Elena got married in a small ceremony with his family and a few close friends. His mother hugged Elena so tight she could barely breathe. His grandmother held her hands and said, "Welcome home, baby." That's when Elena understood what she'd been missing all along. Family wasn't about blood. It was about who showed up, who stayed, who loved you when you needed it most. They moved to a different city, started fresh. Both kept teaching. They lived in a modest apartment, saved their money, dreamed their dreams together. But the world had other plans. 2 years into their marriage, David's school district faced budget cuts. He lost his job. Elena was pregnant with their first child. They were living paycheck to paycheck, and suddenly, one of those paychecks disappeared. David applied everywhere, sent out hundreds of resumes, went to interview after interview. Elena watched the man she loved come home defeated, night after night. She saw the weight on his shoulders. She felt the fear in their apartment, but she also saw his strength. The way he got up every morning and tried again. The way he held her belly and whispered to their unborn son, Daddy's gonna make this work. I promise. 3 months later, he finally got hired. Not as a teacher, but as an after-school program coordinator. It paid less, but it was something. It was hope. Their son Jordan was born on a rainy Tuesday in April. 7 pounds, 3 ounces, with his father's eyes and his mother's smile. Elena lay in that hospital bed, holding her baby, with David beside her. And for a moment, everything felt perfect. Then she looked at the door, half expecting her mother to walk through. Her father, her brother, anyone from the family she grew up in. Nobody came. No card, no call, no flowers. It was like she didn't exist. David saw the tears on her face. "Hey," he whispered, "look at me." She did. "We are his family," David said, touching their son's tiny hand. "Me, you, and him. We're enough. We're more than enough." And they were. They built a beautiful life. They had 2 more children, Maya and Zoe. They bought a small house. They created traditions. They loved fiercely. But Elena never stopped missing the family she lost. She never stopped wondering if they ever thought about her, if they regretted their choice, if they ever asked about her. She'd search for them online sometimes, late at night when she couldn't sleep. She'd see updates on her brother's business success, her mother's charity events, her father's retirement announcement. They looked happy. They looked complete, like she'd never existed at all. But if you think that was heartbreaking, wait until you see what came next. 19 years passed. Elena turned 43. Her children grew. Jordan was in college, studying engineering. Maya was in high school, captain of the debate team. Zoe was in middle school, already talking about becoming a doctor. David had worked his way up to principal of an elementary school. Elena was now a reading specialist, helping struggling students find their voice through books. They'd built something beautiful, something real. Then one day, Elena's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Hello? Elena? It's Aunt Patricia." Elena's heart stopped. Aunt Patricia, her mother's sister. The one who used to sneak her candy at family gatherings. The one who taught her how to braid hair. "Aunt Patricia?" Elena's voice cracked. "Baby, I know it's been a long time. Too long. I've been wanting to call you for years, but, well, that doesn't matter now. I'm calling because there's a family reunion next month. Your father's turning 75 and we're all getting together. Your cousins have been asking about you. We found your number through Facebook and I wanted you to know you're invited, you and your family, all of you." Elena couldn't breathe, couldn't think. "Does my father know you're calling?" Aunt Patricia hesitated. "He doesn't know yet. But honey, we're not kids anymore. Your cousins, your other aunts and uncles, we all think this has gone on too long. Your family, you've always been family. What happened, that was wrong. And some of us are ready to say it out loud." Elena talked to David that night for hours. She showed him the invitation that came in the mail days later. A formal invitation to the Carter family reunion. Her name was on it. Mrs. Elena Carter Williams and family. "What do you want to do?" David asked. "I don't know," she whispered. "What if they reject me all over again? What if they're cruel to you? To our kids?" David took her hand. "Baby, our kids are strong. They know who they are. They know their worth. And honestly, maybe your family needs to see what they missed. Maybe they need to see the beautiful life you built, the beautiful family you created." He paused. "But only if you're ready. Only if you want this." Elena thought about her children, about all the years they'd grown up without grandparents on her side, without cousins to play with at Christmas, without that big, messy, complicated family she'd grown up in. She thought about her father, turning 75, getting older, time running out. "I want to go," she finally said. "I want them to see. I want them to know they were wrong." But she had no idea what she was walking into. No idea that this reunion would become the moment that changed everything. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, something incredible happened. The reunion was held at Lake Hartwell, at a rented pavilion surrounded by trees and water. Elena's stomach twisted as David pulled into the parking lot. She could see them already, dozens of family members, familiar faces aged by time, kids running around, music playing. Her hands were shaking. Jordan reached from the back seat and squeezed her shoulder. "We got you, Mom." They walked toward the pavilion together. David on one side, Jordan on the other, Maya and Zoe behind them. A unit. A family. Elena saw her cousin Rebecca first. Rebecca's eyes went wide, then filled with tears. She ran over and hugged Elena so hard they almost fell over. "Oh my God, you came! You actually came!" Other cousins appeared. Aunt Patricia, Uncle James. They surrounded her with love, with apologies, with years of missed connections spilling out all at once. Then the crowd parted, and there he was, her father, standing by the grill holding a spatula, staring at her like he'd seen a ghost. Her mother was beside him, hand over her mouth. The entire reunion went quiet. Elena's father set down the spatula. He looked at her, at David, at the three beautiful young people standing with them. "You came," he said. His voice was different, older, softer. "I was invited," Elena replied. Her voice was steady, but David felt her hand trembling in his. Her father looked at David, really looked at him. At his kind eyes, his protective stance, the way he stood beside Elena like he'd never leave. Then he looked at the kids. Jordan, tall and confident. Maya, poised and intelligent. Zoe, bright-eyed and curious. "These are your grandchildren," Elena said quietly. "Jordan, Maya, and Zoe. This is David, my husband. We've been married for 23 years. Her father's eyes filled with tears, actually filled with tears. Elena's mother stepped forward. "They're beautiful," she whispered. "Elena, they're so beautiful." "I know," Elena said. "I've been trying to tell you that for 23 years. The silence stretched. Everyone was watching, waiting. Then her brother stepped forward. The brother who'd told her to live with her choice. He looked older now, grayer, but his eyes were red. "I was wrong," he said. His voice broke. "Elena, I was so wrong. We all were. I've watched my own kids grow up, and every birthday, every graduation, every moment that mattered, I thought about you. I thought about how I'd feel if someone made them choose, if someone took them away from me because of who they loved." He looked at David. "I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry. For all of it." Elena couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down her face. Her father moved closer. He looked at David. "You took care of my daughter," he said. It wasn't a question. "Every day of my life, sir," David replied. "You raised these children." "We raised them together." Her father nodded slowly. Then he did something nobody expected. He extended his hand. David looked at Elena. She nodded through her tears. The two men shook hands. It lasted only seconds, but it meant everything. "I was taught wrong," her father said, his voice shaking. "I believed things that weren't true. I hurt my daughter because I was afraid of what people would think. I cared more about appearances than I did about her happiness. And I lost 23 years because of it. 23 years I can never get back." He looked at Elena. "I can't change what I did. I can't undo the pain. But I'm begging, for a chance to know them, to know you again. Not as the daughter I tried to control, but as the woman you became, the mother, the wife, the person you chose to be." Elena's mother came to her, took her hands. "Please," she whispered. "Please forgive us. We don't deserve it, but we're asking anyway." Elena looked at her children, at David, at the family she'd built from nothing. Then she looked at the family she'd lost. I forgave you a long time ago, she said softly. I had to, for my own peace. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't give you back the time you missed. She paused. But it can be a start, if you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to see us, really see us, for who we are. Her father nodded, tears flowing freely now. Whatever it takes. The rest of that day was a blur. Elena's parents met their grandchildren properly, asked questions, listened to stories. Her father heard about Jordan's scholarship to Georgia Tech. Her mother learned about Maya's debate championships. They watched Zoe talk excitedly about her science project, and they saw David, not as the man who took their daughter away, but as the man who stood by her when they wouldn't, who raised beautiful children, who built a life full of love and purpose. Elena watched her father and David talk by the lake as the sun set. She couldn't hear what they were saying, but she saw her father's hand on David's shoulder, saw David nod, smile slightly. Later, David told her what was said. Your father apologized, really apologized. He said he spent 23 years defending a belief that cost him everything that mattered. He said watching you with your children today, seeing the life we built, showed him what real family looks like. He said he was wrong about everything, and if there's any grace left in the world, maybe we could find a way forward. Elena cried in David's arms that night. Not from sadness, from release, from closure, from hope. So what does all this mean for us today? Implications and analysis. This story isn't just about one family. It's about thousands of families, millions even. Families torn apart by prejudice, by fear, by beliefs that prioritize appearance over love. Think about what Elena lost. 23 years. Her parents missed watching her become a mother. They missed first steps, first words, first days of school. They missed Christmas mornings and birthday parties. They missed seeing their grandchildren grow up. And for what? Because they were taught to fear difference. Because they valued their community's approval more than their daughter's happiness. But here's the deeper truth. Prejudice doesn't just hurt the people it targets. It destroys the people who hold on to it. Elena's father lost his daughter. He lost decades of relationship. He lost the chance to know 3 incredible grandchildren. Hate is expensive. It costs you everything that matters. Now think about David. He could have been bitter. He could have refused to shake hands. He could have told Elena's father exactly what he thought of him, and nobody would have blamed him, but he chose grace. Not because the hurt wasn't real, not because it didn't matter, but because he understood something profound. Holding on to anger would have poisoned his own life, would have affected his children, would have continued the cycle of pain. Grace doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. It doesn't mean forgetting injustice. It means refusing to let someone else's ignorance define your peace. Elena's children grew up knowing their worth. They didn't grow up with grandparents on one side, but they grew up with love, with dignity, with parents who showed them every day what real commitment looks like. Jordan, Maya, and Zoe walked into that reunion with their heads high. Not because they needed their grandfather's approval, but because they knew exactly who they were. That's the legacy David and Elena built. Not one of bitterness, not one of shame, but one of unshakable self-worth. And here's what made the reunion possible: truth-telling. Elena's extended family, Aunt Patricia, her cousins, her uncle, they broke the silence. They said out loud what needed to be said. This is wrong. This has gone on too long. Family is family. Change doesn't happen in silence. It happens when people who know better speak up. When they make room at the table. When they reach out across the divide and say, enough. Think about your own life. Your own family. Are there divisions that need healing? Are there beliefs you're holding on to that cost you relationship? Are there people you've shut out because of fear or prejudice or pride? This story asks us to examine our own hearts. It asks us, what are we teaching our children? Are we teaching them to love or to judge, to accept or to exclude, to build bridges or walls? It asks us, what matters more, being right or being connected, protecting our pride or protecting our relationships? And it asks us, how much time are we willing to lose before we admit we were wrong? Because here's the truth. Nobody gets time back. Elena's father can't redo those 23 years. He can't attend the birthdays he missed. He can't hold his grandchildren when they were babies. All he can do is start now, start today, make different choices going forward. That's all any of us can do. This story also shows us the power of building your own family. When Elena's blood family rejected her, she didn't fall apart. She built something new, something stronger. She found family in David's mother and grandmother. She found it in friends who showed up. She found it in the community she and David created around their children. Family isn't just about who you're born to. It's about who chooses you, who stands with you, who shows up when things get hard. The Black community has always understood this. For generations, when blood family wasn't safe or wasn't enough, we created chosen family. We took care of each other's children. We opened our homes. We became aunties and uncles and grandparents to kids who needed us. That's not a backup plan. That's strength. That's resilience. That's love in its purest form. Elena and David showed their children that strength. They showed them what it looks like to build a life on your own terms, to love boldly, to stand firm in who you are. And when the time came to face the family that rejected them, they didn't come back broken. They came back whole. They came back successful. They came back with evidence that love, real love, wins every time. The question now is, what happens next? Where does this family go from here? Because reconciliation isn't one conversation. It's not one reunion. It's daily choice. It's consistent action. It's proving through time and behavior that you've actually changed. Elena's father will have to show up, not just at family events, but in the everyday moments. He'll have to learn his grandchildren, really learn them, their dreams, their fears, their personalities. He'll have to build trust that was destroyed, and Elena will have to navigate the complexity of letting him in while protecting herself and her family. She'll have to balance forgiveness with boundaries, hope with realism. That's the hard work of healing. It's not a movie ending. It's a process. But if they're willing to do the work, something beautiful can grow, not to replace what was lost, but to create something new, something honest, something built on truth instead of pretense. And maybe, just maybe, other families will watch this story and find the courage to do their own healing, to have their own hard conversations, to choose love over fear. Before we wrap up, there's one final truth you need to hear. 6 months after the reunion, Elena got another phone call. It was her father. He called every Sunday now. Sometimes just to talk. Sometimes to ask about the kids. Sometimes to share something he'd learned or read that made him think. But this Sunday was different. "Elena," he said, "I need to tell you something." She braced herself. "I've been going to therapy," he continued. "Your mother and I both have. We're trying to understand why we believed what we believed, why we hurt you the way we did. And today, my therapist asked me to do something. She asked me to write you a letter, a real one. Not just an apology, but an explanation, an acknowledgement." He paused. "I want to read it to you, if you'll let me." Elena sat down. "Okay." Her father's voice was shaky, but he read every word. "Dear Elena, I am writing this because sorry isn't enough. I need you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. I see that I chose my pride over your happiness. I chose my fear over your love. I chose the opinions of people who didn't matter over the daughter who did. I told myself I was protecting you, protecting our family, protecting our values. But the truth is, I was protecting my own comfort, my own narrow view of the world, and in doing that, I destroyed the thing I claimed to love most. You deserved better. You deserved a father who celebrated your love, not condemned it. You deserved parents who stood by you, not abandoned you. David deserved respect from the moment you brought him into our lives. Your children deserved grandparents who loved them from their first breath. I can't change what I did, but I can change what I do now. I can learn, I can grow, I can show up. Not because I expect forgiveness, but because it's what I should have done all along. You are an extraordinary woman, Elena. You built a beautiful life. You raised incredible children. You chose love when it cost you everything. You are stronger than I ever was. And I am so proud to be your father, even though I don't deserve the title. Thank you for giving me this chance. I won't waste it. I love you, Dad. Elena couldn't speak, couldn't move. Elena? Her father said softly. Are you there? I'm here, she whispered. Did I say the right thing? Yeah, Dad, she said, tears streaming. You said the right thing. That Christmas, for the first time in 23 years, Elena's whole family came together. Both sides, David's family and Elena's family. In one house, around one table. Her father sat at one end. David's father sat at the other. Between them, children laughed and played. Stories were shared. Food was passed. Love was present. Elena stood in the doorway watching it all, and David came up behind her, put his arms around her waist. You did it, he whispered. You healed what was broken. We did it, she corrected. You, me, and the family we built. We did it together. At dinner, Elena's father asked if he could say something. The room quieted. I know I don't have the right to lead this prayer, he began, but I want to say thank you. Thank you to David for being the man I should have welcomed from the start. Thank you to my grandchildren for giving an old man a second chance. And thank you to my daughter for having the strength to love when the world told her not to. For choosing her heart over her history. For showing all of us what real family looks like. He raised his glass. To Elena, the bravest person I know. Everyone raised their glasses. To Elena. Elena looked around that table. At her father, trying. At her mother, learning. At her children, whole and confident and loved. At David, the man who stood by her when nobody else would. And she understood something profound. The family that rejected her didn't destroy her. They revealed her strength. They pushed her to build something better, something truer. And in the end, that strength brought them all back together. Not as they were before, but as something new, something earned, something real. Because sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones who have the furthest to grow. And sometimes, if we're brave enough to let them, they actually do the work. Sometimes the hardest stories are the ones that heal us all. Elena learned that forgiveness isn't weakness. It's power. The power to release what hurt you. The power to create space for change. The power to build a future different from the past. David learned that grace doesn't mean being a doormat. It means being secure enough in who you are that someone else's ignorance doesn't shake you. And Elena's father learned the most important lesson of all. Love isn't about control. It's about celebration. It's about supporting the people you care about in becoming who they're meant to be, even if it looks different than you imagined. Today, Jordan is an engineer building sustainable housing. Maya is in law school, studying civil rights. Zoe is still talking about becoming a doctor, and nobody doubts she will. They know their history. They know what their parents sacrificed. They know what their grandparents lost and found again. And they're carrying that legacy forward. Not with bitterness, but with purpose. Not with anger, but with wisdom. That's how change happens. One family at a time. One conversation at a time. One choice at a time. The choice to love anyway, to forgive anyway, to build anyway, to hope anyway. That's the real story here. Not just about reconciliation, but about the unstoppable power of love that refuses to quit. So if you're carrying pain from family, If you're holding on to hurt from people who should have protected you, if you're wondering whether healing is even possible, Elena's story says yes, it is possible. Not easy, not quick, not guaranteed, but possible. And sometimes, just sometimes, the family that broke you becomes the family that learns from you. Sometimes the people who rejected your love become the ones who finally understand it. Sometimes the ending you never expected becomes the healing you always needed. Because love, real, courageous, bold love, always finds a way. It found its way for Elena and David. It brought their families together. It gave their children a complete picture of where they come from. And it proved what many of us already know. When you choose love, even when it costs you everything, you never really lose. You always eventually win.